I purchased multiple copies of Hollow Knight SilkSong. That's a investor in real art, bro. Holy shit, he over invested. He paid them what they're actually worth. Holy shit. Nah, this game is so good. And them making it $20 is even better for the person that wants to play it.
SilkSong deserves more money and more attention than any other game currently out there in the gaming market.
True. Absolutely. Including Hollow Knight. No, Hollow Knight deserves to be priced higher as well. I'm not saying they should price it higher, because like people will still want to buy the game, and it would kind of suck if it went up in price. But it is worth more than they're charging. Especially how long and how like limited on resources they are, and I heard they have 3 people on their team that are creating these 2 games. Bro, they deserve more money. They already made a fuck ton, I'm sure, but they deserve even more. They deserve the fucking world, bro.
And I say that despite not playing the game yet, and actually I have no intention of playing it anytime soon because I want to play the first one before it, and I don't know when I'm going to be getting around to do that. I think many of you are already seeing the hype that this game has brought in. Outside of Expedition...
I'm like halfway through the first game. I just suck at boss battles and side scrollers. So I am not the ideal person to be playing a game like this, but I have gotten like halfway through the first game, and I do want to beat it and buy the second game.
33, I don't think there's another game this year that has reached this much hype. And it's just another testament to show how much attention a game deserves when you can tell that the people that were making the game are doing it because they love gaming, and most importantly, they love the gamers that buy their games.
Exactly.
Or at the very least, they respect them. Or they have enough confidence in their own title that they know that they can price it at a fair rate while still making a lot of money on it, but also not blindly milking the industry. SilkSong comes in at...
I don't even think it's a confidence thing. I think they wanted to do something good for the community. And like people are mad that it costs such a little amount of money. That's how you know they made a good game, bro. And that they're setting a good example for the industry.
$20. This is a game that easily could have sold for $40. And while many people might fear that other indie developers might feel threatened by this price point because their game is going to be compared to Hollow Knight, SilkSong is in a unique position where I think it should be compared to the AAA titles out there in the industry. It may be an indie game, but it's big enough to compete with the big boys. Other indie titles may not have the luxury of charging the prices that SilkSong charges. And it doesn't mean that they're ripping you off, nor should it mean that we don't support indie devs that do charge $20 for a game that might not have the same oomph that SilkSong does. Because the reality is SilkSong is going to be selling well more than enough to make up for that low price point. But those massive AAA publishers that are releasing games at full price and increasing that price to the point where now they're reaching $80, those ones should absolutely be compared to SilkSong and games like Expedition 33 earlier this year. Because sometimes it's not how much you can get from a single person, it's how much money you can get from a collective. And something being priced appropriately in this day and age with this type of market and this type of gaming industry pays for its own marketing because it's priced accordingly. I purchased SilkSong on pretty much every store that I can purchase it on. There were a few stores that I left out of because I didn't want to give them any of my money because I know they take a small percentage of that cut. But outside of that, I just went crazy. I'm like, I want to be part of every single sale and every single statistic that SilkSong has because I think it deserves it. I'd rather buy SilkSong 4 times than buy Mario Kart World once. Because that's what voting with your wallet is.
That's so true, bro. Holy shit, what Nintendo is doing right now, the greed that they're displaying is insane.
And that's what these developers should be seeing. Think of someone like Ubisoft. They took a $70 game that came out last year, and that's $70 just for the base game. You could be spending up to $130 if you want the Ultimate Edition, the full package.
Holy shit.
They took that game from stronger hardware, they ripped so much quality from it to the point where the file size is like a third of what it used to be, took that watered down port, put it on drastically inferior hardware, and you'd think they'd be like, well, this is a lower quality game, we're going to charge less for the people that are looking to buy it. Instead, they decided to take advantage of a new Nintendo Switch 2 user base that's hungry for games because there's nothing to play on there, and charge people $60 for this inferior port. Think of the favor they could have won over with the community if they just released it at $40. That lower price point alone would have paid for whatever they did in marketing to make sure that Outlaws got as big of a push for the Switch 2 as it did, and it would have been completely natural. They never would have had to focus that much money on the marketing. And not only that, the sales numbers would have reflected it. Star Wars Outlaws, while we still don't have the data, obviously.
Wait, is there not a side dash? You can only downward dash in this game? I'm sorry. I know this has nothing to do with what he's talking about, but
even a thought in anybody's mind anymore because SilkSong broke the internet. It broke all of the shops. And it's done so not only because it's a game, it's done so because it's a testament to what you can do if you are releasing a game without being greedy. When you remove that corporate greed, everybody starts to come around. Compare this $20 to some other modern day $20 titles that we've seen. Like I just mentioned the Switch 2. You can have $20 and play SilkSong, or you can take $20 and you can play Drag and Drive. You can have $20 and pay for SilkSong.
What the fuck is Drag and Drive?
Welcome Tour twice. When you put a game of this caliber into that context, you really start to understand just how much more they could have charged for this game and gotten away with it. But at $20, you're looking at impulse buy territory. You're looking at literal pirates online having discussions and saying to one another that we should not pirate this game, we need to buy it. Even if you're going to pirate it, you should still buy it. That is insane, but it's proof that when something is priced right.
Yes, this is one of the only games that could do something like that. Have people actually being like serious about that. Like, don't pirate this game, and if you do pirate it, still buy it, please, because they deserve the money. They deserve everything, bro.
And when people are not being ripped off by the industry that we all hold so dear to our heart, the people are willing to spend. And that's even if they don't have to spend the money. Now, this doesn't mean that every game should come out at $20. Like I mentioned, Expedition 33 was not a $20 game, but it was still priced appropriately given what the game was. And these are games that are launching at these prices. You know they're going to be going down in price because all but one publisher will drop their games in price eventually, and usually pretty quickly too. For example, Star Wars Outlaws right now on the PlayStation 5, you can get it for $30. So what reason do you have to double the price when you're selling an inferior version to the end user on a different console? Because here's what's going to happen. A lot of people are going to be like, it's an Ubisoft game, we know it's going to drop in price, there is no point in putting that money up front. We'll just wait for the inevitable discount that will come in a few months. Why do we have to do this song and dance? Why don't you just launch the price appropriately? And with that appropriately priced game, maybe then the game that you launch can break the stores and get all of that free marketing online from so many people that want to buy this game, because at this point it becomes impulse buy territory. But no, instead, these companies have tried many different ways to convince the masses that gaming today has to be more expensive than it was before. Actually, it's worse than that. They've gone out of their way to convince people that, believe it or not, they might be cheaper now than it was before. And they use things like artificial inflation calculators that don't take the full context of prices. There's a good article here that I'll link in the description that I would love to go through and make a separate video on later.
Historically overpriced. Yeah, exactly. They are. 100%.
I actually found it while scrolling through Matt Piscatello's
It's actually
Blue Sky,
insane.
and it goes on about how today's game consoles are historically overpriced, and their analysis shows missing price cuts are costing console consumers hundreds of dollars. And I made videos about this a few months ago, but all of the people just like to point at the fact that the magazine back then, if you account for inflation, says that my current console is cheaper than the Sega Saturn was. But there's a lot more nuance to the discussion, and the studies show that. They prove it. Gaming today as a whole is more expensive than it ever has been. And the best part is, the conclusion of this article is that console prices aren't dropping in part because the market isn't forcing them to. Do you know what that means? They keep the prices where they are because people are willing to pay for it. It has little to do with costs of marketing, costs of developing, costs of what they're paying their developers. None of that. It's basically they're willing to pay, so we're willing to charge and continue to increase.
Yeah, people will cope, and the industry will cope and bring up points that oh, it costs so much to make because we have so many employees, because we have to pay all these employees so much, and we have to pay for the assets that we have to use. We have to pay the artists. We have to pay their voice voice over people. We have to pay voice actors. We have to pay the director. We have to pay our CEO's fucking pension and for their vacation where they can go on vacation for a whole month out of a year. And it's like, the people buying your game do not give a fuck about that. It's not our damn problem. Team Cherry shows that you can make a game with 3 people. And it can be one of the greatest games, if not the greatest game of all time. Twice! And you're saying that you're charging so much because we need you to get money so you can pay other people? No, we don't give a fuck. Maybe don't have that many people at your job then. And I'm not saying they should fire people. But like, make an offshoot company or something that doesn't cost so damn much to run.
The prices to make sure they keep paying, because the rate of which the price has increased is faster than the rate of which the cost has increased. And that's largely because of who's buying these games, because it's not the kids
also, that shit is just most of the time not true. The most of the time it is cope that they're saying, the things that they say as excuses for why games cost so much now.
These games, they're playing free-to-play titles. They're playing them on their tablets and their phones or on a single console where they don't even buy games for anymore. And once again, I got a lot of my information about this from Matt Piscatello's Blue Sky. 100K plus income households now account for 43% of the US video game hardware purchases, and that's
also, it's rare these days to have a game that just comes out and it's finished, like Hollow Knight. Both of the games. Yeah, sure, maybe they had patch notes. Sometimes somebody found a glitch and they fixed it. But other than that, the game is done. They don't need to add anything to make more money. They don't need to add anything to really fix a lot of problems, because there was no problems to begin with. Like, so far from what I've seen with this new game, it's absolutely perfect the entire way through.
Up from 36%.
Why can't we make games like that anymore?
18 to
Apparently we can. Just nobody is, because nobody gives a fuck.
24-year-olds accounted for only 3% video game hardware purchases during the 12 months ending July 2025, and it's down 10% from the 12 months ending in July 2022. Wow. That's why people are thinking that the video games are not that big of a deal and just let people spend what they want to spend. That's why the industry is trying to charge more as much as they can, because they're like, hey, those kids that we indoctrinated from a young age, they're willing to put in a few more extra pennies. And they all think that all these kids are just going to go out and be like, yeah, this is going to be popular, we're going to keep going. No. Do you wonder why free-to-play games have taken over the industry? This is why. They give kids something free to play with, and the parents are willing to spend free. And then amongst all of this commotion, every now and then, one of those kids will convince their parents to let them spend 20 bucks, whereas an even smaller percentage of that will just spend hundreds, if not thousands of dollars on these games, and that's worth it to these game developers. And it's not to say that the free-to-play model should be good for the industry. Far from it, actually. But the reality is, when the cost of entrance is so low, and in contrast to that, the cost of the console gaming is so much higher, it's no wonder all of your little cousins and friends and family members play Fortnite or Roblox. Because in today's market, you can't afford Mario Kart. That's a reality. Rob from Game Industry Biz, he says if today's kids...
Bro, that is so sad. I grew up playing Mario Kart and like Super Mario and Pokemon. In all these games, you can't even afford to play anymore because of corporate greed.
And teens aren't engaging with PlayStation, it's very unlikely they'll start doing it as 20-something or 30-somethings. That's just how it goes. The console gamers that are currently buying consoles got into it because it was affordable when they were younger for their parents to buy into. Now, unless specifically a parent is a console gamer and wants to make sure their kids are playing those titles, then who is going to get these children to buy a Switch 2, for example? Who's going to get them to buy a PS5? Their parents are just going to let them use a tablet, they're going to let them use a PC, they're going to let them use a phone. Because as far as their...
Side note, Nintendo's going to be screwed whenever all the gamers grow up and don't have kids anymore. Like, once we all collectively just stop having kids, I mean, the world, society, the globe is going to be screwed as a whole, but gaming companies and like children's TV show companies, we're already seeing it, bro. Granted, most kids are just watching on their phones now. Cartoon Network is screwed. Disney Channel is screwed. I don't know anything about Nickelodeon. I haven't heard much, but I feel like they're probably next. At this point, we don't have kids media, like traditional kids media anymore. Everyone's watching Cocomelon. They're watching fucking Skibbity Toilet. It's all just brain rot shit. They can scroll YouTube shorts and have endless amounts of content instead of having their parents pay for cable or anything like that. Kids aren't going to be playing games anymore. At some point, they're not going to be playing video games like we do. And I'm just hoping that does not lead to us never getting video games again.
They're concerned gaming is gaming. They don't know the difference, but the gamers do. And that's a massive reason why SilkSong is getting as much attention as it's getting right now, and it deserves every bit of that attention. And it deserves every dollar that it's getting. And quite frankly, it deserves even more than that. Gaming today does not have to be something that companies are breaking the bank for, nor especially should it be something today that the customer is breaking the bank for. You can give quality at a budget price, and this game proves it. The current president of Nintendo of America...
No, they've always been doing that. They just know that we were willing to pay for it for the longest time, that they could get away with it.
EA, because of course, argued that variable pricing is set in place because they can charge what they want based off of what people think that something is worth. What that means is if you're paying $20 for a game or if you're paying $10 for a game, you're getting something crappy. It's not worth your time and effort. This is why Nintendo's variable pricing is quite frankly bullcrap. Variable pricing is something that absolutely can exist and it should exist. But just because you're paying less for something, while it may be worth less, it should not be worthless. The way the industry looks right now, I will gladly give money to every single game that is actually appropriately priced, even if I have no intention of playing that game. And the way the industry works, that won't even take that much money out of my wallet because of how few games are actually appropriately priced out there today. If there's a single game out there today you want to vote with your wallet on, it's SilkSong. And that's why I bought it multiple times through multiple different storefronts. Thank you so much for listening, and I will catch you on the next one.
Man, that was a good video. I already subscribed because I knew it was going to be peak before I even watched it. But like and subscribe to his video and my video. I'll see y'all later. Man, this was good.